YouTube comments from a video titled Hormone and Fertility Experts. We've been lied to about women's health. If this happens, call a doctor. Part 5.
At Ali Sargent 354 wrote,
What you said about your girlfriend was actually really helpful. I seem to be going through the same process right now. It's nice to know I'm not the only one.
At Grace Wong 9045 wrote,
I'm a victim of excessive fasting. I did 16 to 8 methods for a long time combined with 24, 36 hours fasting. I actually gained 10 pounds because of it. Now I'm eating regularly, lost 10 pounds without much effort.
At Jerchagorf 2010 wrote,
This is so needed. I am a 53-year-old mom of 4 kids, and my youngest daughter, who is 20, has more medical issues than I do. They started at 13 with such intense joint pains that she had to be carried off the soccer pitch on one occasion, and she was nearly in a wheelchair from the pain at one point. Since then, she has had mental health issues, including an incorrect diagnosis, and most recently a diagnosis of PCOS, which may well have caused her mental health issues. Now she has some skin issues and does not want to go to the doctor because most of the doctors have said it is just growing pains. If there is any female doctor interested in taking on her case, that would be great, as most doctors are still not giving her the support she needs, which makes total sense when you hear this conversation.
At Nick Mora 28 wrote,
Just a question for the internet ether. If PCOS patients have double the egg count and estrogen because the eggs don't die off, why are it US-based insurance so quick to cover symptom management that doesn't work, but won't cover modified fertility treatments for PCOS patients to have some of the eggs surgically removed? A conspiracy to kill millions of women? Why are we forcing women to suffer needlessly when the extra eggs can just be surgically harvested/removed?
At Zoya 9463 wrote,
I was 39 when I came to the United States, escaping a painful life in my home country where women lived under deep restrictions and constant judgment. It was a long and difficult journey to reach safety. I arrived here with hope for freedom, stability, and the chance to build a new life that included becoming a mother. From my very first appointment, that hope began to fade. The gynecologist I met told me bluntly that I could not get pregnant because of my age. There was no warmth, no curiosity about who I was or what I had already been through, only a verdict. Yet, against all odds, I became pregnant twice naturally. Both pregnancies ended in miscarriage. Those early years in the United States were some of the hardest of my life. Immigration itself was a battle, navigating a new culture, language, and system while adjusting to a marriage that was already strained. On top of it all, I was grieving losses that the medical system treated as routine events. I was desperate for empathy, for someone to listen, for a doctor who saw me as more than a chart or a number on a page. When natural conception failed again, I turned to IVF. I wanted to trust the process, but then the pandemic began. The clinics shifted their focus to COVID testing and protocols, not the emotional or physical care of patients. I went through 5 rounds of IVF, each one ending in failure. I watched doctors rush through appointments, change doses without explanation, and treat me like I was part of a production line, not a human being longing for a child. Eventually, I gave up on IVF. Not because I stopped believing in my body, but because I could no longer tolerate the system's indifference. I later became pregnant naturally 3 more times, but each ended in miscarriage, partly because I couldn't access proper care. Here, most doctors refuse to see a patient until 8 weeks into pregnancy. By then, it was always too late. I often think about women in less developed countries, who, with far fewer medical technologies, receive gentler, more personalized care, and somehow manage to have healthy pregnancies even into their late 40s. After those years, my body began to change. I started gaining weight rapidly, even though I exercised regularly, ate clean, and practiced intermittent fasting. I felt constantly bloated, exhausted, and heavy. Every blood test came back normal, yet my thyroid numbers were never in the optimal range. I begged doctors to help me, to dig deeper, to treat my symptoms rather than dismiss them, but each time I left the clinic, I felt smaller, more invisible. Now I find myself standing at the edge of perimenopause, listening to every podcast, reading every study, and trying to teach myself what the medical system refuses to explain. My background is in mathematics, not medicine, but I have learned more about my body through self-study than through years of doctor visits. Still, I am confused and growing more desperate as the symptoms worsen. I often wonder why a woman like me, educated, disciplined, proactive, has to fight this hard to be heard. Why must we beg for compassion in a system that claims to be advanced? Why must women carry the burden of their biology alone, piecing together fragments of knowledge from podcasts and forums, while professionals dismiss our pain as normal for your age? I came to this country to escape a world that silenced women. I never imagined that, years later, I would find a different kind of silence here, one hidden behind sterile clinics and smiling doctors. With all the studies and discussions about delaying menopause, supporting women's hormonal health, and advancing fertility care, I still haven't been able to receive proper, individualized care for myself. I am deeply disappointed and frustrated that, in a place with so much knowledge, compassion still feels out of reach. All I want is to understand my body, to find real care, and to feel at peace in this new chapter of my life. I am still searching for that balance between science and empathy, between knowledge and compassion, between hope and exhaustion. With all the knowledge, research, and technology available today about fertility, hormonal health, and delaying menopause, why do so many women like me still struggle to find compassionate, personalized care? Why do we have to fight to be heard in a system that claims to understand us? Despite my frustration with the medical system, I am deeply grateful for this podcast and the women behind it, the experts, doctors, and the host who bring these difficult conversations to light. Their voices remind me that I am not alone, that women like me exist everywhere, searching for care, answers, and understanding. I thank them for giving women like me the courage to speak, to turn silence into testimony.
Caitlin Rihanna 2198 wrote.
What incredible, articulate female doctors and researchers. I am a whiny woman right now at 45 years old, and I've decided to get help instead of living with the symptoms and trying to manage it on my own. Now the real struggle is to find a doctor who understands all of this.
At Amelia_Watson 3347 wrote.
I read Forbidden Business Mindset by Taryn Wicklow cover to cover on a long-haul flight. I couldn't sleep after. The book doesn't scream. It whispers things no one says out loud. How the tax code is a map. How debt is a tool. How income is a trap. I landed thinking about foundations, shells, and leverage in a whole new way. I wasn't taught wrong, I was just taught to stay inside the system.
At Oliamertzelo 9843 wrote.
I've listened to all four experts separately before, but I really enjoyed the harmony of the quartet in the Diaries of the CEO. I just want to echo Dr. Vonda Wright's thought that we deserve a better, healthier life than our mothers, who often had no access to information or hormone replacement therapy. and whose main form of exercise was doing household chores or working in the garden. Thank you to all for your contribution to women's health.
At Robert Munafo 5039 wrote,
All these women seem to completely ignore or not want to address the fact that there is a reason natural childbearing years are for women much younger than what the current trend is. Yes, there's been medical advancements that make it possible to do it later in life, but that's not ideal, and they seem to want to ignore that fact. Seems like some of their attitudes towards this is being influenced by what the current social trends are versus what Mother Nature has intended.
at Carol McManus 6963 wrote,
A very informative and heartbreakingly true experience of the myriad challenges faced by women at the hands of medical systems that discount their specific needs during their lifetime. This conversation emphasizes how little medical training systems care about the health of women, let alone their specific reproductive needs and the ensuing challenges once they can bear a child or if they cannot. It is sad that the technology/pharmaceuticals exist to ensure male performance, and yet so disregards the health of women to the degree that the diagnosis of WW is still being used and their concerns are written off as not important. This message needs amplification, and for all people to insist upon a medical system that includes female data points so that a true baseline can be used as a reference, no matter that their hormonal shifts will make that a more challenging task for those who collect the data.
at MD No 5KN wrote,
Women's rights in society are also part of the women's health discussion. Environmental factors are also part of health discussions. And also mental health. And please let a more diverse group of women speak as well.
at Tay 45826 wrote,
I didn't have a period for 4 years due to my eating disorder. I finally got it back and now have my beautiful child by my side. It's so bad to not menstruate.
at Madonna Francis 5410 wrote,
Oh, I recall that when I showed signs of perimenopause, a panel of male doctors at the table told me to go build a house or do something to distract my wayward mind.
at JJKF4KC wrote,
Nice that all the women on these panels make an exorbitant living and are able to have chefs and personal trainers to keep them buff and young and healthy. But for the rest of the women in the world, come on, please get real.
at Valpop J9R wrote,
I wish I had such information available 20 years ago. This would be a saved video for as long as possible for me to learn on how to have the talks with my daughter when she's of age. How to guide her and teach her about her body, and what would be the best informed decision she can make for her own good and health. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Stephen.
at Leon 38688 wrote,
Women earned their right to have the same freedom as men. But we both have different jobs for our family and our society. We must learn how to balance them.
at C November wrote,
As a married, perimenopausal woman, thank you for this discussion. My husband will be happy to listen to this because he is just as lost as I have been on what is happening with me.
at Swady 4131 wrote,
When I was 60 and coming off the pill and going on to HRT because I was complaining about problems, I was told by my then male GP, "You are so lucky to still be alive. In the past, most women your age would be dead by now." Medieval?
at Sanyababu 7432 wrote,
Thank you, Stephen and the team, for bringing light to women's health. It is a severely under-discussed topic, and women are just taught to suck it up and live with so much suffering thinking it is normal. Thank you to the guests for being so transparent about their own learning journeys and for sharing such valuable information. When I went to see the doctors for my irregular periods, they all said it was normal as long as it hit 4 periods a year. They were all women and there were multiple doctors.
Doctors need to be aware of the gap in their knowledge as well instead of not listening to patients.
K39, you wrote.
It's really super easy to love this channel because every episode hits different. I usually watch these videos on Sundays as I wind down from the old week and slide my way to the next one. I'm very happy, especially about this episode. Even though I don't suffer from these issues myself, some of my girlfriends do. So it's even motivation for me to dive into my research field to see if I can eventually contribute to early diagnosis. Thanks for an amazing episode.
Admira6010 wrote.
I'm writing notes as I watch this podcast like I did in my uni days. It's absolutely amazing to learn from these experts about how our body women works. Thank you, Stephen.
The Flavor Punch wrote.
Stephen, I'm honestly blown away that you brought together such amazing women and created a space for this kind of conversation. You keep outdoing yourself with the guests and round tables you put together. I'm so grateful for this podcast.
And Melody Primp wrote.
People keep trying to get me too fast in order to lose the weight I've put on, and I'm like, nope, not doing it cause it really messed up my fertility and thyroid. Never again. The only fasting I'm doing is during the night when I finish my last meal.
At M_Joe_78 wrote.
Can we ask for these same notes in our medical records and visually see the WW? My DR found something extremely funny and then proceeded to talk down to me. First visit with this eye-rolling jerk.
At Danielat1420 wrote.
The only symptom my mother presented during her heart attack was fatigue. Not once did she say she was having pain in her body, especially her chest or torso or arm. The symptoms fed to us, but are in fact that of men, not of women. After hours of this, she started throwing up, and a little time after she complained that she couldn't breathe. So that's when I took her to the ER, and that's when we both found out she was having a heart attack, when it was already too late. Her heart had deteriorated to 10% function, and her organs were already starting to shut down from lack of enough oxygen. She's not with me because some selfish, unprofessional men didn't think women were worth medical care and study because they had ego over compassion and mental ability. I am still mad after losing my mother over 10 years ago. She was 54. Who would have considered fatigue a symptom? How can we ever recognize early symptoms of a heart attack in women before it's too late? Who isn't tired these days? She was working toward better health, losing weight, reducing her smoking to a few cigarettes a day after being a smoker for 3 decades, with the intent of quitting, of course. And our diet was home-cooked healthy soups and light meals. She was doing everything right. The only family member on her side of the family who had a heart attack and died was an older male cousin. I don't know what to say or think anymore except a slap to the faces of any medical professionals and scientists and research providers who have ever dismissed a women's study because of ego or greed. A big fat red slap to their faces.
Ekatertalover 3000 wrote.
Wow, thank you for this conversation. People have been recommending fasting to me. So this is interesting to hear. Thank you for this conversation in general. Finally, women's health isn't being as ignored.
Akadia Senichev 9064 wrote.
Hi. Thanks for the great episode. I wanted to let you know that the promo code for Plord Note is not working, at least on the European side of the company. Is the promo valid only for US? Thanks.
At BLVK is my vibe wrote.
Perimenopause is making me crazy. I've heard that Black women seem to have a stronger manifestation of this change, and I feel every bit of it. My heart, my brain, my weight, sleep, eyesight. It's too much.
A Cracked Canvas Community wrote.
I've never seen an episode where Stephen barely speaks. Very important episode, and I feel like I'll be able to understand my lady friends and any future romantic relationship a lot better now. Saved and downloaded this one for future use. Thanks.
At Gaby4735 wrote,
Not going lie, I cried the part of endometriosis I am going through that after years of being dismissed. I am still trying to find solution not being heard.
Chow2315 wrote,
This conversation is so shocking because I've been told for years since I was a teenager to suck it up that lots of bleeding and cramps are normal. The amount of middle and ibuprofen I've taken is huge. Well, here I am with fibroids and just had surgery where they also found endometriosis and adenomyosis. One of the DRS said you should cycle and be fine. Why are the OBS not trying to help us instead of pushing the pill and telling us to suck it up? Wow.
At Augusta Gomes 8877 wrote,
All right, I am back on Team Diary of a CEO. I know you have had these women on here individually, but this episode is huge. Thank you, Stephen, for opening up these kinds of discussions and holding a platform for this kind of content.
At Cherry Johnson 8639 wrote,
At Theory of Facio, I wish you would have included a more diverse set of experts. Women of color have particular nuance and health needs that continue to be ignored. We have so far to go.
At Brendamge Atlanta 8850 wrote,
Woman's body after 40 is different. You cannot fast like before 40 years. We need more female health studies on how to enjoy healthy life after 40 years.
At Carol Allison 9685 wrote,
The really crazy thing that no one talks about is how men affect our hormones. Sperm has the ability to help fight depression because it's full of serotonin and melatonin. Also, if a man is unhealthy, we can have terrible morning sickness. A man having unhealthy DNA in his sperm cells is the #1 reason for early-term miscarriages. I've been married a long time, and I always know when my husband's diet hasn't been the best because my cycle goes wonky, even if my diet has been perfect. My teenage sons hit puberty and I'm the one who had a breakout. We also affect men's hormonal health as well just by being around them for long periods. Basically, what I'm getting at is we as a whole society need to get healthy because we affect each other. Your health isn't just your own.
Just E Please wrote,
Watch the Dark History episode on DR and how the hospital systems began. It makes total sense that we are at where we are at when you hear the history of it. It's sad and ignorant SMH.
Danifer wrote,
Oh, I am so excited for this. I've been on a hormone journey for PMDD and estrogen dominance recently. Love what I'm learning already. Literally taking notes. Edit. I'm disappointed that I didn't hear about high estradiol, but they implied a second video, so maybe they will discuss it then. Unless I missed it? I heard a lot about low estrogen, but I don't recall a discussion about high amounts. They mentioned estrogen dominance, but not in the context I was looking for.
Camardialnio wrote,
Thank you for this conversation. I have listened to the podcast you've done with these amazing ladies individually, and when I saw this table conversation, I just had to run to get my notebook so I can keep track of important details throughout the conversation. Thank you for all that you do.
The Tactic Original wrote,
I went to the doctor and was patted on the knee in my 20s and sent out with no diagnosis. Later found it was due to a tumor in my skull and didn't get that diagnosis until 3 years later. Both the doctors were female. Later, during treatment, the male doctor actually offered me Valium because I was having side effects to the medication that was not listed as a standard side effect. I just pushed through horrific side effects rather than scrambling my brain on Valium because I knew there had to be a better way. In the end, I wound up dropping treatment and having to do my own research and treat myself. This should not be how women have to endure the medical system. I hope this video wakes up some doctors. This video has been so helpful. I've been doing some things suboptimal, and now I can adjust them.
At Chelsea 4469 wrote,
Wow, this is great. I was misdiagnosed for PCOS, and they put me on birth control at a young age until I started having major mental issues on the pill. Post pill, I started getting hair all over my body and on my face due to my testosterone levels going haywire now, and BOI does it suck. But this convo is so validating.
At Rachel Drury 0522 wrote,
10 minutes in and I'm furious, annoyed, frustrated. Just the extent of how much we have been ignored, pushed off to the side, brushed off. I was already aware of all of this, but the feminine rage has been engaged very quickly. We are a suffering population.
At Lillian Bagonco wrote,
This is great. In addition, we needed a Black woman Black experience simply because of the distinct intersection of biology, culture, and social experience Black women face. The reality is systemic inequities, lived realities, and cultural strengths make the experience of health for Black women unique and consequently the pathways to healing unique. Just a thought.
At Josigignan 1198 wrote,
This is an issue in Canada as well, but worse because it takes a long time to get seen by a general practitioner. About 6 or more weeks for an appointment if you have a doctor assigned to you. Anything else is up to luck. After waiting a couple of months for a visit to let them know that my wrists are in a lot of pain, I waited another month for an X-ray, and I'm still waiting 6 months later for a test to confirm carpal tunnel issues. Still waiting.
And Modest H wrote,
Would love to have seen a more diverse range of professionals. I see these women everywhere. It's not bad, but Black women's health and biases PLS consider bringing on more of a diverse range of health professionals. Thank you.
A Hasephirite wrote,
I can vouch for this. I lost my period for 3 years, and little did I know developed osteoporosis at 35, only finding out when I broke my femur just stepping down off a wall. I'm now on HRT to try and improve my bones, and my periods are slowly coming back. Turns out the root cause was stress. I'd love to talk more about this and spread the word. Don't ignore a missed period, ladies. XX.
Akara 916 wrote,
Many women don't have their periods on the pill. I got pregnant naturally on our first try at 42, birthed a 9-pound baby at 43, after years without a period while in the pill. Fasting. Eyes different, but don't be worried if you're on the pill and not having a period.
At Florin 5236 wrote,
Stephen, you go bigger and better. To bring this four lady at the table together is just brilliant. Welcome to America. We love you. We need a podcast with you team to meet them and thank them for incredible work you all do.
At user Lu1DG3EQ3K wrote,
8 minutes in, and I'm crying. I wish there was more that could have helped me with my endometriosis. I had a full hysterectomy at the age of 35, 8 years ago. My whole life was changed within hours, and no one tried to help me navigate what was coming next. Thank you for this conversation. Can't wait for part 2.
At Haley Zion 9218 wrote,
I had endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS, fluid in fallopian tube. I was in pain for over 25 years. They finally did a radical hysterectomy when they saw a large blood clot in my womb. That is 5 years ago and not been offered HRT. But so grateful I don't have the excruciating pain anymore.
At Marcy__ wrote,
I'm perimenopausal and fasted for years. I had horrible symptoms. I stopped fasting and the worst symptoms subsided. I read Fast Like a Girl by D.R. Mindy, and it changed the way I looked at fasting.
Estef wrote,
I have adrenal PCOS, high DHEAS, estrogen dominance, no insulin issues, and I'd really love to see more representation and discussion around that type. Thank you so much for creating space for this much needed conversation.
At Laura Palladino 6235 wrote,
I had endometriosis and only found out after a retrieval for IVF. I saw 3 reproductive endocrinologists and several OBs, and no one even suggested I might have endometriosis, but one surgeon who reviewed my MRI. I owe my baby's life to that surgeon, BC. He would not be here without him telling me that. 30% of women with endometriosis have no symptoms. This is such an important conversation to have.
At Firewalk with him 44 wrote,
I didn't have a period for over 8 years when severely anorexic. I have now regained weight and been much better for about 4 years. My bones have improved a lot just from getting my period and gaining weight, but my spinal bone density is still well under normal, and it's concerning. Working on a strength training routine, and I eat as clean and healthy as possible.
At Arab Road 4697 wrote,
Endometriosis is caused by worms. If you have pain down there, take worm medication and you'll soon notice the dead ones coming out. If you don't treat for worms, you'll get endometriosis. The worms literally make big holes inside you, which stops fertility.
At CJTJ 247 wrote,
Thank you so much for this one. I'm a woman in my early 50s who has struggled with uterine cancer and then surgical menopause. I've never considered myself a modern feminist, but when it comes to women's health, I am. There is not enough funding to really understand our bodies. I feel once we get past reproductive age, we become a mystery. It's important for women to know their bodies, recognize patterns, and advocate for yourself when you know something is wrong. So many women suffer in silence, and I feel like that is finally changing thanks to conversations like this. Bravo to Diary of CEO team.
At Alicatmix 9594 wrote,
Love this episode besides when one of the ladies said eat more plant-based foods. Easy for them to say when they all have lots of money. Food is expensive, and then you add a family on there, and being a single parent living in a state that hasn't caught up to the rest of the country when it comes to money and living.
At Orphan Red wrote,
This was fantastic. Thank you for the info. I do have to admit, I don't want to have to advocate for myself. I want my doctor to care enough and be aware enough that he does his job and offers me the options that I need to make choices about, rather than having to find a doctor who will listen instead of dismissing me as a whiny woman. I've been misdiagnosed and the consequences are horrific, and I'm too tired now to have to think about now advocating for myself for hormones when the time comes.
At Lindsay Nichols 8390 wrote,
Amazing video. This is my favorite one so far somehow. They are all great. The power of putting these women into a room to talk about these important subjects astounds me. Also, Steve and I can see how much you love your girlfriend based on the effort you put into understanding her and wanting to support her every day. She must be an amazing woman to have such an amazing man like you. Thank you for putting this together.
At Sweetie Kapoor 5211 wrote,
Nowadays where gynae and DRS doesn't take your health seriously, these kind of videos help. I have been to my gynae last weekend. I complained of dry brown blood before 10 days of getting periods since 4 months, and she said it's fine. Eye hair on chin, it's fine. Mood swings, it's fine. Like, why we have DRS then?
At Ellen Asamartino 4197 wrote,
I wish I could retain this information. The brain frog makes it such a challenge. I also wish that it was easier for women to get effective education, support and treatment. There is such a hopelessness surrounding effective treatment these days. This conversation is much needed. A group dynamic makes the information so much more valuable as the varying/similar opinions are discussed as opposed to watching 5 different videos on the same subject with opposing viewpoints that finish by confusing us instead of empowering us. Thank you, Stephen. It's admirable that you put this together. You are changing the world.
1819 wrote,
Only women with a healthy weight can fast. If you're into the starvation fashion fad, you're already fasting for years and have made yourself too unhealthy for a fast to be healthy. Also, a lot of male-centered women give very bad advice when it comes to women's health. They either intentionally lie or are not even aware about their unhealthy beliefs about women's health. If women and men have been unfairly subjected to live lives that are so starkly different from each other for so many generations, it is expected that our bodies will look vastly different when in fact we really aren't. Our reproductive organs may be different rest as the result of the patriarchal gender roles. These women were amazing BTW. Thank you for this discussion.
At Sorelith 2978 wrote,
It really sucks that menstrual cycle tracking apps are basically all evil corporate things that sell your data. It could be so useful if it was used for good. In general, a lot of the health tech has so much potential, but all it's really used for is to sell ads and raise insurance prices.
Icareta_Thomas 1908 wrote,
Thank you so very much. I went from age 11 to age 19 with being told to deal with my pain from my own mom, as she didn't have endometriosis and could not understand the pain. She never had pain with her cycles. She also never empathized with me. At age 24, I had surgery, no one to deal with the pain, the diagnosis of endometriosis, and the first removal of it, totaling 13 different procedures at once. I had a super compassionate physician who was completely dumbfounded at the years of taking excess acetaminophen and birth control pills, as well as being gaslighted by other women. To persevere my fertility, I went into a faux menopause twice via medication. I had surgery about 10 years later for endometriosis again. The reason I got the diagnosis was because I educated myself in college on reproductive health and kept researching doctors who specialized in endometriosis. Now, with 20 plus years from the initial diagnosis, I have the best team for my health and was able to have a child. Thanks so much for assembling this team of experts so that other women in the world can be more educated and informed about their health.
At Matthew JBD wrote,
I find the upward inflection at the end of every sentence from Dr. Natalie Crawford infuriating to listen to. It completely undermines every statement that she makes. 1 hour 17 minutes 39 seconds is a particularly bad few sentences. I wonder why she has learned to do this.
At Heartsoul 8342 wrote,
Stephen, thank you for your opening. My mom had to have a complete hysterectomy at 36 after a terrible car accident. It was a miracle she survived. This was early 1970s. When my mom passed in 08, the one thing that my dad said multiple times was how much he regretted not being understanding about her condition. He wasn't always nice. He regretted it badly. So thank you for being man enough to educate yourself and care about the women around.
At Seda Sultan XVI wrote,
I'm sharing this all my friends and family. Even take notes and translate them for people cannot understand English. This is a true gem. Thank you, Stephen. I'm glad that I found your channel.
At Warpachanga 358 wrote,
20 minutes in, and I have bone to pick. Listen, yes, it took me years to be diagnosed with endometriosis. And it wasn't until I wanted to get pregnant that a reproductive endocrinologist thought about biopsy my uterus to find out. All the years before that, my obgyn was a woman who dismissed my many symptoms and excruciating pain. So, there's plenty of blame to go around.
Pravalivo wrote,
This is such a rich, dense conversation. Not a single word is a filler word. Very often I drop out mid-interview because my brain wanders due to all the fluff and empty words your guests fill their responses with, but not this time. Highly recommended to anyone, men and women, who want to learn more about the cutting-edge science of all things female.
As Sylvia Rangel D4R wrote,
It saddens me deeply that whenever endometriosis is discussed, the conversation always ends up focusing on fertility, pregnancy, motherhood, etc. They start talking about pain, end up talking about infertility, discuss treatments, and continue with the topic of getting pregnant. It seems that everything has to be child-centered, but no. A person with endometriosis has many symptoms and pain, a lot of pain, and conversations should focus above all on improving that pain and having a better quality of life, because it is a disease that drains you in all aspects of your social life, in your relationship, and at work. It is not only important to have children for a woman.
Abisbit34 wrote,
At the Diary of a CEO Thank YOU. I got so many answers to things I thought I just had to deal with. For those watching that have pain from elasticity issues during sex, you absolutely need to watch the entire episode. Doctors have only told me to try lubricant. It's actually caused a lot of fear and frustration for me for a long time. I'm so thrilled to find out I can change this. There is so much more to learn here, but that is life-changing for me. I'm calling my doctor today.
At Hedwigofler 7861 wrote,
I am listening to this content from such great XX docs for quite a while. Standing in line at the local pharmacy, it is so devastating how many women take some kind of antidepressant in that stage of life, 40-55. And as for some, they are life-saving, of course. It makes you wonder.
At Edra 7342 wrote,
I started going through menopause at 39 and I felt like I was losing myself. I confided in my ex-husband's mom, a nurse, hoping that as a woman and a healthcare employee, she could offer insight or a path toward a solution, and she literally told me to drink more wine and plan date nights with her son. I'll never forget how disappointed, dismissed, and hopeless I felt after hearing that from her. I divorced her son a year later because I'm sure she told him I was a whiny woman. At 42, I'm on HRT, work out regularly, and spend more money on physical and mental well-being. Thank you for being a platform to host this conversation.
At J1129H wrote,
It's so interesting how collaborative and supportive a panel of women experts are in contrast to the debates on this show with male experts that just seem like they're all trying to one-up each other on how smart they are.
At LB1116 wrote,
Hormones and women's cycles are hugely affected by diet. DRS do little nutritional studies when training, which is why they are quick to dispense drugs. The drugs mask symptoms, they do not cure. Think of it like drawing a curtain across a room that is on fire. I sought advice from a nutritionist/naturopath and reviewed weekly acupuncture NOT. The DR. I also completely changed my diet and have stuck to it. No dairy, wheat, booze, limited sugar, no caffeine. My periods are pain-free and regular. I am 46. Please avoid the drugs/the pill. They are just masking underlying issues. If you are serious about feeling better, then make the change for yourself. Invest in you. It is worth it.
At Jen Turner 4229 wrote,
22 years on a prescription that was causing kidney toxicity and shut down my brain's frontal lobe, leaving me with walking corpse syndrome Cotard's delusion. It caused years of ER visits and doctor after doctor. No diagnosis for my constant vomiting. Turns out it was the prescription. 22 years of being poisoned. Did a doctor figure this out? No. I moved to a small town and didn't leave my house. I took Harvard neuroscience classes and read medical journals for years until I figured it out on my own. My Obgen was slowly killing me, and when I told her the medicine's side effects, Codard's delusion, she said, "Huh, never heard of that." She should have been testing my kidney function the entire time. Added to that, I have 3 kidneys. It's a miracle I'm still alive.
A Slim C wrote,
I love my period. I don't get cramps, and I always feel like a weight has lifted when I get it. Full of energy and happy. It's so sad that it's not like that for all women.
At Leonella Vanderberg wrote,
Wonderful conversations. Thank you for making women's health more and more a priority. I live in South Africa, and getting the right treatment and information here is a nightmare. When listening to all these conversations, so much makes sense, and I have so many symptoms for years, and doctors just dismiss you, and you feel like you're going mad. So hearing all this makes me positive for the future of women's health.
At Orthodox Oliveira wrote,
As an East African British woman diagnosed with a pituitary brain tumor after 2 years of amenorrhea, it's difficult knowing that Black women have historically contributed a great amount to the study of women's health, much to their own detriment. Yet, not any Black doctor had a seat at this table. The lack of representation giving their historical input is frankly disappointing.
At Liesel Rossi wrote,
HRT should be a mandatory discussion. When I think of how it might have helped so many women from significant menopause symptoms such as bone loss, something that is irreversible for 95% of women due to availability of healthcare options. The information has been available and yet actively discouraged 10 years ago. From my own experience, I have encountered the resistance, the lack of transparency, and feel like women have been ignored and misled, leading to millions of women losing their vitality, strength, and confidence, leading to bad health and overall fading from 50 plus. Impact is significant, especially as more mothers are single mothers and contributing to the economic health of their families, systematically disenfranchising 50 by 60% of the population who are responsible for the success of the future generation. This is a class action lawsuit waiting to happen.
At Mary Kistler 331 wrote,
What a powerhouse of information you have in one place. Some people won't understand. This is like the Super Bowl of women's health, having all of the fabulous ladies sitting down in one space.
At Joannanovan 342 wrote,
We need these specialists to fuel the NHS with knowledge and have more capacity for women's health. Too late for me, as I hysterectomy 3 years privately after several bad bleeds resulting in a seizure and visits to A&E. I've suffered from 14 to 46. Shocking, were made to suck it up and suffer.
At Rufra Mudamu wrote,
Can a curriculum just on women's health be introduced in schools? There is so much that happens in our bodies, yet we know less. Thank you for this discussion, Stephen. We'll definitely share it.
At Harley Quinton 2874 wrote,
I have never commented on a show before, but I would love to have these ladies look at my labs. I have had nothing but problems since I was 38. I've joked that it has all gone downhill from there. I take 3 thyroid medications and all 3 estrogen estradiol patch, testosterone, and progesterone. I have had irregular periods all my life. 2 live births and 9 miscarriages. This isn't a woe is me. I ache, my weight fluctuates tremendously. I felt amazing after taking a weight management medication, like my body was working again. But my labs are always abnormal. I ended up in emergency services for heart palpitations. Got fired from my long-term job, long story. Still looking, unfortunately. Depression has hit again to a point. All I can say is that I cannot control my emotions. I'm just at a loss. with no medical insurance currently. I would love some feedback to go to or suggest to look for next.
At Laura de Vasconcelos wrote,
54. 14OMG, thank you so much for bringing this up. I'm 47 now in perimenopause, but since 2022 my ferritin had been in the 30s and none of the 6 doctors I went, 3 being OB/GYN flagged it. I had everything dialed in, but was having the worst menstrual cramps ever to the point of calling ambulance for morphine. I had to find out alone that I needed to supplement iron. After 2 months on therapeutic dose, I'm now having my period back to normal without any pain, thank God.
at Slimtastic7638 wrote,
Why did male scientists ignore the female body for centuries? Because Darwin and other strange theorists happened. The real fear wasn't the complexity, but the consequence. That in future medical textbooks, men would only be covered in a short, yet intense chapter titled The Insemination and Gratification Phase. That's what they didn't want to find out. Or in other words, ignoring the female body in science wasn't an oversight. It was a strategic move to avoid a paradigm shift that would diminish the pervasive biological value of men.
at Lobna258 wrote,
Should have probably added Mindy Pels as to understand her own system for fasting if it works, but as a woman looking to have kids, lose weight and elevate her health while being productive and working, I am extremely grateful. Thank YOUFO are raising questions that WE never have answers FOR. And as a huge fan of the Dairy of a CEO hearing it for years now, I'm extremely grateful for you, Stephen, and your team and your partner that have all had an impact in a way or another to enable this platform to talk about women health issues. Words are not enough to thank you.
Caleb 9671 wrote,
I've had PCOS since I was 15, and now at 45, I've lived with years of heavy, painful periods. Doctors put me on birth control and told me to just deal with it. It wasn't until I went into labor with my daughter that I realized contractions felt exactly like my period pain. It's heartbreaking how much pain women are expected to endure. Conversations like this are truly life-changing and reaffirm that women's health is both important and deserving of recognition. Thank you.
at California_Dreamin' wrote,
Great episode, but it would have been nice to have a black female doctor up there as well. Some things affect black women more and differently than Caucasian women.
Coach 8 Gander wrote,
Diagnoses of adenomyosis here. I have no idea until I Google it. 46 years of age and not having my period for 2 months. I used to hate my monthly period, especially these past 2 years, due to severe pain during my periods. Now, I miss having cleaning once a month of my uterus. Enjoy your period, gals, but if you have pain, search for the solution instead of taking off your uterus.
at Waterfall 6042 wrote,
Wow, so we're just happy and cognitive and linguistically sharp 1/4 of the time. The rest of the time we are stressed, anxious, or sad and depressed. That's crazy. I quit birth control pill after about 1 or 2 years of trying it because I got heart clapping and mood swings, and that it just didn't feel natural.
at 90 Day Goals 1 wrote,
Best podcast of your Kia. Women's health is so important and needs much more awareness. Female late diagnosed ADHD would be a great show as well. Excellent guests.
at Marie-Louise Art wrote,
This is Gold Stephen. Thank you for putting your dynamic self into this video. All of the speakers have an excellent input. I'm sharing for sure.
at Slimtastic7638 wrote,
Great conversation. We need more information to help women more. I think most of us suffer so much that it is almost unbelievable. Also thinking about women and girls with neurodiverse, what I would call it more accurately. There is such a long way to go. I think with the availabilities we have today, it shouldn't take a long time.
At Danahashish 3616 wrote,
The R. Natalie Crawford's content has been changing lives across the world, where certain diseases are still minimized. I don't even think she knows how much good she does through her channel.
At Orchids 6404 wrote,
Do keto. Don't do keto. Fast. Don't fast. It's okay for women. It's not okay for women. So many back and forth with past guests and specialists that I have no clue what is right and what is wrong.
At Jaqueen 6204 wrote,
Hold on. If a woman takes birth control pills for prolonged periods of time, does that mean they don't lose eggs since they are not ovulating, thereby eliminating the need for egg freezing at 32? Can someone answer PLS?
Candidate Coach wrote,
Variations, Stephen, not syndromes. Your community note at 12 minutes should in fact state that women have 2 X chromosomes and men have one X and one Y chromosome, with exceptions for individuals with certain genetic variations. Characterizing different genotypes as a syndrome suggests that this is an illness, when in fact intersex births are as frequent as between 1 in every 4,500 births and 1 in every 2,000 births. Not splitting hairs here, but words matter when we're educating people, particularly in how they affect marginalized communities who tend to experience exclusion from society and even violence. Could this be corrected, please? Thanks, Stephen. Love your work. You are an inspiration for my own podcast, MBA Waves.
At Wendy Huang 7493 wrote,
I am not awake until I was really ill. I was slim, and I can drop weight with eating less. But not until I reach late 30. I experience more allergies, more anxiety, and more depression. I stay also away from weight training all my life. At 39, I changed completely. I went on a keto diet, I started weight training, I started sprinting, and I stopped my contraceptive pills after almost 2 decades. I am glad I am on the right track. I can say, coming off birth control pill was one of the worst feeling. My body needs to learn how to produce normal amounts of hormones again. I waited 6 weeks for my first period after pills. And 4 weeks for the second one. And the amount is slowly becoming normal. I am grateful that I find the right things to do at 40, still not too late. But I hope the new generation can be more awake at a younger age.
Fate Mavars wrote,
Wow, what a great podcast when a man like you loves his romantic partner. He does everything in his power to take care of his partner. You try to learn more about women's health, and this is amazing.
At What Is Real Anymore wrote,
I hear a lot of victimhood amongst the women on this panel. I am all for debate and information sharing. But objectively speaking, women have never had it better in society. They do the least dangerous jobs, graduate into white-collar work far more than men in 2025, etc., etc. But yes. On the points about women's health, I am happy I listened. I learned some interesting things that maybe by logic should have been obvious. Women at a cell level are very different to men. We have to have our medicine and institutions take that into account.